the flow controls. Now what is the need of these flow controls? Now why we are using this thing? But suppose simply here, if you want to print like anything in Java, simply now we can use like the print statement like hello we are going to use. Okay. Now what is the output simply? Now here in this case, now we are going to get output is like that hello we are going to get. Now I want to execute like one more time. Okay. Again, copy this thing. Now paste it one more time. We are going to execute. Or suppose simply here, if you want to get like 100 times this hello in the sense 100 times you need to write. Okay. Now, for suppose the same requirement simply here, I have like a statement one. Um, Copy this one. And now control V, control V, control V. Now statement two, statement three, statement four, and statement five. Now this is like this is so this is like one statement only. Now the first statement I want to execute like three times. Okay. The second statement I want to execute like that five times. Now, fourth statement I want to execute only one time. Now, the fourth statement I want to execute like 10 times. Okay. Now, the fifth statement I want to execute like 100 times. Okay. Now, we have like only five statements, but this statement I want to execute three times. This is like a one time, second time, third time. Okay. Now, the second statement five times. This is like one, two, three, four, five. Now simply here one time again 10 times in this like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Also kept here we have only five statements, but here how many number of lines code we need to write. Okay, to avoid like this many lines of code, now simply here we can use like the flow control statement. Okay, now what's the mean by that flow controls in the sense? Now it will control, okay, it will control flow of the program. Okay, flow of the program. Now when it will execute, when it will executed, and now how many number of times it will executed, number of times it's executed. Okay, and how it is executed. Okay, now simply here it will control the flow of the program. Now when it will executed, how many number of times it will executed. Okay, now based on this control flow only, now we can do that. Now how many ways we can control this program? Okay, how many ways? Now we have like three ways simply here now to control. Okay, now we have like three ways. The first one is simply here now decision making statements. Okay, decision making statements. Now second one simply here looping statements. Okay, looping statements. Now third one jumping statements. Okay, jumping statements. Now decision making statements in the sense like inside that we have a if and if else. Now if else if. Now again switch statement here we have. Okay, now within the looping, now simply here while, now do while, and for loop simply here we have. Okay, in the jumping simply here we have like some keywords, the break, and continue. Okay, now these keywords here we have. Okay, by using these three ways, now we can control the flow of the program. Now how many number of lines executed based on our conditions, based on our requirements simply here. Okay, now first we'll go with like that if or a decision making statement. Now these statements we can call like conditional statements also. Okay, conditional statements also we can call it. Now looping we can call like iterative statements. Okay, iterative statements also. The jumping in the sense like the, okay, now the jumping is enough simply here. Now the first one simply here if. Okay, now if is a keyboard. Okay, if is a keyboard, if, now the argument we are going to pass it. Okay, if the argument, now Here it should be open and close. Here we are going to write the logic. Okay. Now if the given argument is a boolean type, okay, means what, like conditional boolean type, simply this logic going to be executed. Okay, the logic is executed. Now simply here, now whatever the argument we are giving to the if statement, okay, if the argument is a boolean type, okay, for suppose simply here a is equal to b or a double equal to b, okay, which one is the conditional here, which one is the related to the condition? A double equal to b, but this is not a condition. Okay, now this output results the boolean condition, boolean output. Okay, either true or false. Now whatever the argument, simply if I pass like a is equal to b, it's not an argument. Okay, now a double equal to b, it's a boolean type. Now whatever the argument we are passing to the if statement, that should be the boolean condition. Then only if the condition is true, this logic going to be executed. Okay, if you observe that some PPT I have. mm, Now, flow controls describes the order in which the statements will be executed at runtime. Selection statements, simply we can call like conditional or decision making. Iterative statements or transfer statements also here we have. If you observe like in the selection, if else and switch statement. In the iterative, while, do while, for each also. But the transfer simply break, continue, return, and try catch finally, it's exception only. Now, obviously, if the B is what here? The condition or argument. Now, if the argument to the if statement is true, the action if B is true. Or otherwise simply here, else if B is false. Okay, means what simply here? If the condition is true, this logic going to be executed. Or otherwise simply here, else logic going to be executed. Simply here, now logic executed. Means what? The condition whatever we are passing to the if statement, that should be the boolean condition. If it is a true, the first logic going to be executed. If it is not true, the second logic going to be executed. Okay. Now, are you clear this point? Now, observe here. Read the point. The argument to the if statement should be boolean type. Okay. Now, if you observe like, now right click, new package, simply here com dot flow controls. Now right click on the flow controls package, new demo I'm going to create. Okay. Now simply here main method. Here I'm going to create like that. Int a is equal to 89. Now int b is equal to 45. Okay. Now simply if a is less than b. Okay. Now sy4 simply here a is less than b, or otherwise simply here else simply here now sy4 now a is not less than b. Okay, now what is the output right now? If it is a false or if it's a true? What is the condition here? A is not less than b. Okay, now but suppose if I use like a greater, now what is the output? Okay, now A is less than B for suppose. Now this logic going to be executed. Means what? If the condition is true, now the first logic going to be executed. If the condition is false, the second logic going to be executed. Right? Okay, now we clear this point. Pakka? Okay, now objectively. You need to answer these questions. Now, observe carefully here case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4, case 5. Now tell me the outputs. Hmm. Now everything is if else only. Hmm. I'll give the 1 minute time. Just think about it. After 1 minute, I will ask. Okay, if you say like that, five questions, five cases are correct output, simply I will give the silk chocolate. Hmm. Done. Yeah. Now, what is the case one output? Hmm. Hi or hello? Case one output. Case two output. Hello or hi? Hmm. If I'm not giving any condition, what is the output then? Okay, case two. Case three. Case four. Case five. Hello. Observe carefully here. What is the condition output in the sense? In the case one, int x equal to 0. If of x in the sense what? 0 only. But is it a condition? No, it's an int value. Okay, that's why simply here we are going to get error. Okay, now incompatible type of found int required boolean. Okay, that's why we are going to get error in the case one. Now, what about like case two here? The case 2 also we are going to get the same. Now there is no condition checking, there is no boolean type. Okay, even though it is like boolean, that's okay, but there is no boolean type also simply here. Okay, that's why again incompatible type of found in the required boolean. Case 3 we are going to get what? High. Case 4 again we are going to get a high. Why? In the sense, basically here if you consider like case 2 and case 4 looking like same, but the type is what here? Boolean type. That's it. If it is a Boolean type, that's it. Now we can say like it's a high. Now case for in the sense like the comparison both are true, simply we'll get like a hell. If you observe that, CM. Okay. Case one incompatible types are found into required Boolean. That's case two also simply here. Now the argument to the if statement should be Boolean type. If there is no Boolean type, simply we are getting error. Okay. Now next one simply here. Clear these points? Okay. Now tell me what is output. Hmm. Now first one is hello. Empty. Hmm. Case three. Empty. Case four. Hmm. That's it. That's it. Yeah, exactly. Now in the first statement we are going to get like a hello. The second statements are empty statement but successfully executed. Okay, why in the sense the condition is true. Now if case 3 and case 4, observe carefully here. Now if you want to declare any variable like this simply here, now we are not going to use like this. If you want to declare anything simply within the curly braces we need to declare. Okay, if you declare like this simply we are going to get error. Now here the compile time error we are going to get. Okay, now here else part and curly braces are optional. Okay, except in which case everywhere the curly braces are optional. Now without the curly brace only one statement is allowed under if which should not be declarative statement. Okay, now this one, case 2. Semicolon is a valid Java statement which is also known as a empty statement. Now observe carefully here. Okay, in this case simply now we are going to get like what? The A is greater than B we are going to get. Now for suppose simply here SO now just entered if block. Now what is the output right now? Okay, A is less than B. But suppose simply here, I am going to remove like all the curly braces. Now simply here I am going to remove this one also. Now, what is the output right now? A is less than B. Now, simply here, SYSO, SYSO. Now simply here, just entered like if block. Now what is the output right now? Hmm. అంతేనా? Hmm. Hmm. Now did you observe? It's not going to be executed. We are getting error. Okay, in the sense simply here, if you want to execute these two statements, okay, now we need to give that curly braces. Okay, if you want to execute just to more than one statement, it's a mandatory to provide that curly braces. Okay, now, or if you want only, if you have like only one statement, no need to like provide a curly braces. It's an optional. Means what? If you want to write like more than one statement, it's a mandatory to provide the curly braces. Otherwise, we don't need it. Okay. Now that is the point about like if else. Now, what about like if else if simply here? Now, if else is like only one condition. Okay. If one condition is true, one logic is executed. Okay. If it is a false, one more logic going to be executed. Okay, if true, one logic executed. False, one more logic executed. For suppose the given condition, if we have like a multiple, okay, multiple choices simply here, then how I can guess that? Okay, in that case, simply we'll go for if else if. Okay, if else if condition. Now the condition simply here, I'm going to write like a string, like a city is equal to Hyderabad. I'm going to write. Okay. Now, if the city, okay, if the city double equals to simply here like Goa. Okay. Now, I want to execute like a SY4. Now, simply here, this is Goa. Okay. Now, this is Goa. Now, for suppose else if, okay, else if simply here, now if the city double equals to simply here like London, now simply here, okay, now SYSO, the city is London. Okay, now one more condition. Okay, control copy, one more condition, one more condition. Okay, now finally everything is not matching, simply finally the else block. Okay, now SYSO, no condition is matching. Okay, no choice is matched. Okay, now if we have like multiple choices to select that one statement in that, simply we'll go for like a if else if you observe that the same thing we are going to execute in here, demo one. Now the main method. Now string city is equal to simply here I'm going to write like that Hyderabad. Now if city double equals to simply here like Goa. Now SYSO, the city is okay, the city is Goa simply here. Okay, now but suppose nothing condition is going to be matching, simply here again city double equals to simply here like now KMR. Now sorry, okay, now SSO, now the city is KMR. But suppose the city is also not matching, now again the condition, again checking one more condition, else if simply here the city is like a KDD. Now we'll go with like SYSO. Okay, now the city is KDD. Okay, now again one the condition also not matching, else if one more condition is checking, now the city double equals to simply here like US. Now we'll go with like SYSO, the city is US. Then any condition is not matching, for suppose simply here only I'm going to make it as Hyderabad, the city is like Hyderabad. Now simply here else, Now the city double equals to here. I'm going to write like that US. Write like that else. Else. No. S4 simply here. The city is US. Now anything is not matching simply. Finally that else block going to be executed. Now S4 like no city found simply here. Okay, no city found. Now here, if I execute simply here, which logic, which block is going to be executed? First subject carefully here. Now, the string city Hyderabad I'm going to mention here. Now, the logic is going to be enter into that city Hyderabad is equal to double equal to Goa. Okay, both values are not same. That's a condition is false. This if block immediately looking for the else, but there is no else block. Immediately it will enter into that else if. Now the Hyderabad is double equal to Karimnagar. Simply here it is also not matching. Simply next it will go to that else block, but there is no else block. It will check with that else if. Simply it here also not matching. Again it will enter into that here HYD is equal to double equal to HYD. Now it's going to be condition is matching. The city is Hyderabad. Right click, run as Java application. Now we'll get like that Hyderabad. But suppose simply here I'm going to go with like that Secunderabad simply here. Okay. Now control S. Now what is the output right now? Now simply here this city is going to be matching with each and every choices. Okay, that's why simply here now it will take a lot of time internally. If I execute simply here, now we'll get like that no city form. Okay, but the else if else if disadvantage is what, like simply it will take a lot of time for execution. The readability is a more. Okay, now that's why simply here we'll go with like the switch case. Okay, now rarely we are going to use like the if else if. The more we can use like the switch case nowadays. Okay, if you observe that now here, if several options are available, then it is not recommended to use nested if else because it reduces the readability. To handle this requirement, we should go for the switch case. Okay, what will happen in the switch case? Based on the condition, which case is going to be matching, directly the matching record going to be executed. But here in the switch case, each and every condition is not checking. Okay, now but in this case each and every choice is going to be executed. Okay, so checking. Now what about like the switch case simply here? Now the curly braces except switch case everywhere is optional. Okay, except switch case everywhere the curly braces are optional. Now simply here how I can write? Now switch is a keyword, switch off the argument. Okay, the argument inside the switcher. Now everything is like a case format only. Now case give some space the expression. Okay, that expression simply here now we can use like the break if you want to break that. Okay, now right, for suppose there's no break right. Okay, object evaluation. Switch of argument. Okay, inside the switch simply here we have a case space expression. Okay, this is syntax for the switch statement. Now, what about the expression you are writing? Okay, now the expression type is equals to argument type. Okay, now observe carefully here. For suppose simply here, int age is equal to 18 and I'm going to write. Now switch off age, I'm going to pass it. Now simply here case age I'm going to write. Again case simply here age I'm going to write. Again case simply here 67 I'm going to write. Now here in this case which one is a valid and which one is a invalid in the sense anybody guess which one is a valid and which one is invalid? Case 67 is valid. Exactly. Why in the sense what I said, the expression should be okay, the expression type should be equals of argument type. Okay, the age type is what? Int type only. Now here I mentioned directly variable, it's not matching. Now it is a string type, it's also not matching. The 67 is a type of int. Okay. Now more than that, if you're trying to mention other types simply, we are going to get a compile time error. Okay. Now except like the same type, if you mention other type simply we are getting error. Okay. For suppose I'm going to write like this. Now control copy. Now control V, control V. Now simply here, like this I'm going to write. Now again we are getting a why in the sense like the duplicated case labels are not allowed. Okay. For suppose I'm going to write like one more case. Like this I'm going to write means what, like this, except more than the range simply we cannot write. Okay, more than the range simply here we cannot write. Okay, now empty switch case also possible. Okay, that's a range in the sense for suppose ఇప్పుడు ఇక్కడ into type ఉంది. Okay, into type simply here some values there like that. So this is a range for like into type. I'm trying to mention like this. So this type of number we cannot store in the int. The range is not allowed that. Okay, within the range only we need to pass. No, range we cannot guess that. Even though I cannot remember. Simply here 2 power like 253 simply here we have. Something like 2 power 253. This is like simply we cannot guess that. Okay. Now, yeah, within the given range only that int should be possible. Simply for suppose you mentioned like int type, you mentioned some number like this. Simply we are getting error. Why in the sense the type of int is not allowed of this number. Okay, and then only we can guess that okay this number is not possible. Okay, even though my phone number also not allowed in the int type. Why in the sense that much long? Okay, now my phone number is allowed like long type. Okay, more than that. Otherwise simply nowadays we can use like the big int also, the big int type also it's possible. Okay, no more than the number simply here. Okay, now okay, this is a switch case the same. But suppose now whenever you went to like any like a restaurant, simply here we are giving like some feedbacks, right? Okay, good or like bad and worst simply here. Okay, now these condition I'm going to make it as like by using switch case. Okay, observable here I'm converting like switch case. Now main method. Now simply here I'm going to make it as like a string feedback is equal to good. Okay, string feedback is equal to good. Now switch off argument is what, the feedback. Okay, now the type should be same as like a case expression. For suppose like case 67 I'm going to give. Okay, now here did you observe we are getting an error. Okay, if I place the cursor, type mismatch cannot convert from into to string. Okay, now we need to mention simply here for suppose. Okay, now bad. Okay, bad. Okay, now if the bad is matching with the feedback. Okay, now SYSO, now your service is bad. Okay, now improve it, better to improve. Now for suppose one more case I'm going to write. Now control copy. Now control V, control V, control V, control V. Now case is simply here I'm going to write like that worst. Okay, the worst. Now your service is like that worst. Now simply better to leave. Okay, better to leave. Now for suppose your service is good. Okay, your service is good. Now take a tip. Okay, take a tip. Now simply here we can say the tip here we can consider. Okay, now your service is like that excellent simply here. Okay, excellent. Now control copy, your service is excellent. Now you will get like some what is that like salary, the increment simply here. Okay, you will get like increment with the next month. Okay, now yeah, bad is right. For suppose simply here no case is matching. Okay, simply will use like the default case. Okay, the default case. If it is a default case simply here like services is out of service. Okay, services is out of service. Now simply here, now in this case now the matching is what, the good. Okay, now if I execute that, what is the output? Hmm. Hmm. Up to good or good to service? Okay. Hmm. Now see, right click run as Java application. Now see. Okay, directly the matching case with again the next one also, but you have doubt, so we are going to check the condition based on the good only, then why the excellent and default, even though the non-matching records also going to be executed from matching point onwards. Okay, but the requirement I want to execute only the matching record. Okay, now whenever the matching case is there, simply I want to use that to break it. Okay, there only I want to break it. Okay, now if I execute that, right click, run as Java application, your service is good, that tip is executed. Okay, now for suppose this break point, I am going to use here. Now what is the output? Now again good, excellent, and again 3 will go. But suppose simply here my break point here, good and excellent. But suppose my output is here, only good is executed. Means what, like simply whenever the condition is matching, simply immediately you want to break from here. Okay, it will out of the case, simply that good only going to be executed. Okay, now if I execute it simply here, we are going to get that good. But suppose simply here my data is like next. Now what is the output? Now services is out of service. Okay. Now for suppose this default case, I am going to write as a first case. Okay. Now what is the output right now? For suppose simply I am going to write like good. Hmm. What is the output? Up to good or good to? Only good or good to excellent? Hmm. Default as well as good. Okay, we'll see that. Now, if I'm trying to execute that, right click, run as Java application. Now, say your service is good tip. Now, then why we are writing default basically here? Whenever that there is no matching record is found, simply I want to go with the default case. If you're writing this default, what is the use? Okay, that's why. Okay, we are not going to get any compile time error, but it's a mandatory to write the default as a last case in the switch case. Okay, we need to follow that naming convention. Okay, now yes, yeah, that is the convention simply here. Okay, basically here, if anything, if any case is not matching, the default case is going to be executed. But suppose even if it is matching, the default also going to be executed. What is the use? Okay, that's why simply the default case is not matched. We are going to write the last case in switch statement. Now, if you observe that PPT, the same thing you are going to repeat. Now, start. A conclusion basically here. I am using which type here in the switch case? String type. Okay, observe carefully here. Now, the allowed arguments, the type for the switch statement, byte short int char int before 1.5 version, 1.4 version. String is not allowed. Okay, in the 1.4. Now, after 1.4, 1.5 version onwards, the corresponding wrapper classes. What are the wrapper classes we have? Yesterday only. Byte short int long, integer, long, character, boolean. Okay. Now these classes are allowed. Enums also allowed. Simply here. But suppose can I change seasons like a winter, summer? Can I change seasons? No. But suppose can I change like a weekday simply Sunday, Monday, Saturday? We cannot change. Now this type of constant simply we can say that enums. Okay. Now 1.7 version onwards, string type is also allowed. But suppose you are working with like 1.7, now the string is not allowed. Okay, simply you cannot, within the switch statement, you cannot use that. Okay, on 1.8 onwards, simply here we can use that the string. Now, see, curly braces are mandatory except switch case. Everywhere curly braces are optional. Now, both case and default are optional. Is an empty switch statement is a valid Java syntax. Simply here, in the case of interview room, they are going to give like this thing. Options are like this. Now, compile time error, runtime error, empty output, none of the above. Okay. Now, what is the output? Compile time, runtime, empty output, or none of the above. Now, simply the output is empty output, perfectly executed. Why? In the sense, the point here, both the case of default or optional is an empty switch statement is a valid Java syntax. Okay. Now, so inside every switch, every statement should be under some case or default. Okay. Now we don't need to write like this. Okay, if you want to write, okay, even if you're not writing anything, simply it's also valid. But if you want to write anything, that should be in the case format only. The case something like case something with the statement simply. Now directly statements we cannot write like that. Okay. Next, every case label should be compile time constant. In the sense like other type we cannot write. Suppose earlier we mentioned like that what the bad is a string type. For suppose simply I'm going to mention like that bad like that. Okay, this bad is okay. Now it's a variable like that. Okay, it's not a like string type. That's why we are getting it. Means what? The compile time should be constant. Now see here, x equal to 10, y is equal to 20. Case 10, case y. Okay, simply here x type is what int type only, but it's not y. Okay, y we cannot write like that. So y type in the sense like this, simply 20 you can write if it's possible. Okay, now y we cannot write. Y is considering it's a variable. Okay, now every case label should be in the range of switch argument type, otherwise we'll get compiled error. Observable, your point. Byte b is equal to 10. What is the maximum range of byte? 127. Okay, maximum range is 127. Now, 10 is okay, 100 is okay, 1000 is not possible in the byte range. Okay, the byte size is like 127 only. So more than 127, if you want trying to store 128, it's not possible. Okay, means what? The type of range we need to give the case. Okay, now. No, duplicate case labels are not allowed. Otherwise, we will get compile time error. See here, 97, okay, 98, 99, again 99, right? Okay, we are getting compile time error. Okay. Now, within the switch case, we can write default case anywhere, but it is recommended to write as a last case. Okay, here we wrote like default as a first case, but it's recommended to write as a last case. That is the thing here about the switch case. For suppose if you observe that like how that if else
default first లో రాసింది expression ఏం మ్యాచ్ కాకుంటే ఆటోమేటిక్ డిఫాల్ట్ ప్రింట్
yeah default print out. Simply here bad hj. I'm going to type that case default right now. Right click, run as Java application. Now see. Okay, in this case, everything is going to be printing. Okay, even though we are not using break statement, but this is the printing. But basically, why we are writing? If a first one case checking, right? If anything is not matching, default is the last case. Okay, that's why it's no issue. So we can write it, but the naming convention we need to follow that.
అంటే ఇప్పుడు అది కిందకి రావద్దంటే బ్రేక్ పెట్టాలి సార్ అంటే
Yes, yes. Okay, we need to use the break one. No. Okay. If you observe that, some videos I will show you that if and if else if. Okay, if and if else if both are same, if and if else if and if else three are different. If you observe that, now observe carefully here. If else if else
Swami Rara, Swami Rara, Swami
means what? Until the condition is satisfied, simply here it's not going to be match. Okay. Now did you watch this movie? No. Now I think the Mugur Managal I think. Yes. Now, for suppose simply here, like, you can understand easily like that. Okay? Now see, if else if. Where is the money? Simply the condition is false. We'll go to the next. Again, condition false. It will go to the next. Again, a condition false. Finally, the else block going to be executed. Okay. Now, until the condition is satisfied, it's going to be the forward direction. But suppose like that. What is the difference between like if else if like if else if simply here? Sometimes like we are thinking like everything is the same, but everything is a different simply. If you observe that,
నువ్వు చేయండి నేను చేయలేను విజయ్ చేయగలను నేను చేయలేను నేను చేయండి విజయ్ చేయగలను నేను చేయండి నువ్వు చేయలేవు ఇట్స్ లైక్ గోస్ టు ఈచ్ అండ్ ఎవ్రీ వన్ ఆఫ్ us.
means like each and every if for suppose if we have like some formula for some purpose, else if we have some purpose, like if else if also some purpose. Okay. Now everything is not same, everything is a different one. Okay. Now like this simply if you observe that. See, now if the condition is satisfied, now this person is going to be executed. If the condition is not satisfied, this thing simply here, this person is going to be executed. Okay. If else if condition. Now this one simply here, like see, like this is a third person. The condition is true, this person is going to be executed. If the condition is false, this person is going to be executed. Finally, this condition is false, this one is false. This condition is false. Finally, the else block going to be executed. Okay, that's a perfect. Now, simply now this is about like that conditional statements. For suppose simply here next one the looping. Okay, the looping. Now within the looping simply here we have a for loop. Okay, now while loop. Now do while we have. Okay, now what is the difference between like a for loop, while loop, and do while? Okay, now for in the sense if I don't know the number of iterations, okay, if I don't know the number of iterations in advance, okay, simply we'll go for loop. I will explain. While in the sense, right? Sorry. If I know the sorry now if I know the number of iterations in advance, simply we'll go for loop. Now, if I don't know the okay number of iterations. Okay, iterations in advance simply will go for while loop. Now if you want to execute without checking condition, at least one statement executed okay without checking condition. Okay, without checking condition, simply here in the for loop and while loop without checking condition it's not going to be executed. But if I want to execute at least one statement without checking condition, we'll go for while loop. Okay, sorry, do while. The best example I will show tell you like the while loop and do while. But suppose simply here I have like SBI ATM machine. Now we have like ICICI ATM machine here. Simply here we have. Okay, not exactly these machines, but suppose simply here the SBI machine is asking whenever I enter like insert the card, first it will asking like PIN number. Okay, PIN number. Okay, it's a condition. Simply 1 2 3 4. That's a matching. Okay, if the customer is matching, then only it will ask like how much amount like withdraw. Okay, now how much like what is like a savings account or like a current account. Okay, now some bankings are asking simply here first like a withdraw amount. Okay, then which account is savings account or not. Then finally it is asking PIN number. Okay, PIN number simply here. Now SBI is like that while loop. Okay, first checking the condition, then only it will execute it. Do while in the sense like it will not check the condition, later it will check the condition. Okay, yeah. Now do while and a while. Simply here it is a while and it is a do while. Okay. Now what about like that for loop simply here for suppose. Now I'm saying that just to print 1 to 10 numbers. Okay. Now what I said, print 1 to 10 numbers. Now I know the starting point, I know the ending point. Okay. In the sense what, if I know the number of iterations in advance, we'll go for loop. But suppose simply here we have like one file. Okay, I wrote like some lines of code. Just to print those lines in the sense like how many lines you can say. We can say like how many lines. Now if I don't know the number of iterations, simply we'll go for like while loop. Okay. Now what is the first for loop? We'll go with that. Now the syntax is like for of, for is a keyword of. Now initialization, okay, semicolon, condition checking, okay, now semicolon, increment or decrement, okay. Now open and close curly braces. Now here we are going to write the logic or statement, simply we can write, okay. Now initialization, condition checking, incrementing or decrementing, our statements are executed. Now again, this initialization logic is going to be executed only once in the lifetime. Okay, simple example. For now, int I is equal to 0. Okay, now I less than or equal to 10. I plus plus. Now incrementing. Now SYSO of printing of I. Okay, now see initialization, condition checking, incrementing, and again logic executed. Now this initialization logic is executed only once in the lifetime. Next time it will not execute it. But suppose first the I is equal to 0, condition like initialization. Next one, condition checking. Okay, I is less than or equal to 10 or not, condition true or false. True or false? Condition true. Yes or no? 0 is less than 10 only, right? Condition true. If the condition true, then only it will enter into the block, it will print. Okay. Next, after printing that, what is the older value of I? 0. Now it's going to that incrementing part. Now 4. Okay. After that 4, incrementing 0 to increment to I plus plus is 1. Again the condition checking. Okay. Again the condition checking. Now 1 is less than or equal to 10. Condition is true. Simply here again it's printing. Okay. Again go to that incrementing. Okay. Now again condition checking. Now again printing. The logic is a keep on iterating. Now what is the final value of I? Hmm. The answer is like 10. The answer is like 11. Is it correct? Pakka? Okay, observe carefully here. Now 9 is going to be incremented to 10. 10 less than or equal to 10. Condition is true. 10 is printing. Okay, the logic is like output is 10. Now observe carefully here. Again, the 10 is going to be incremented to 11. Okay, 11 is less than or equal to 10. Condition is not satisfied. It will exit out of the for loop. Okay, simply the both answer correct. Now whenever the interviewer stressed on this point, simply you can say like 11 also. How in the sense like this condition. Okay, after checking the condition 10th value, again it's going to be incrementing part. 11. 11 less than or equal to 10. Condition is false here. It will exit out of the for loop here. Okay, that is the main condition. Okay, now we'll see that.
Stored value is 10, getting out of the loop is 11.
Yes, yes. The last value is 11 only.
Okay.
No. Main method, simply here. I'm going to write like for of. Okay. Now int I is equal to 0. Now same I less than or equal to 10. Now I plus plus. Okay. Now SO simply here. Now we are sleeping persons. Now I am going to write. Okay. Observe carefully here. Now initialization, condition checking, increment or decrement. Now observe carefully here. Now I mentioned the starting point, I mentioned like ending point also. Means what here in this case, I know the number of iterations. Okay, then we'll go for like a for loop. Right click, run as Java application like here. 10 members are sleeping right now. Okay, correct? Sleeping. Okay. Now here I want to print only the even numbers. Okay, how I can print? I want to print like 10. The last point is at 10, but I want to print only the even numbers only. Okay, now how I can write the logic? Or suppose simply observe carefully here. Now, for of initialization starting with like int I is equal to 0, it is also even number. Now, I less than or equal to 10, 10 is also even number. Now, if I increment it to I plus plus, for suppose observe carefully here. Now, SYSO of if I print like I, now what is the first output? 0. Now, what is the second output? 1. But I don't need like 1. I want to like 2. Okay. Next output like trying to print 3, but I don't need 3. I want 4. Okay. Now see, I is equal to 0. I less than or equal to 10. Now, first 0 is printing. That's okay. Now, 0 is going to be incremented to 1, right? Okay. If I go with like increment to 1, again 1 is printing. Now, the condition is I'm going to changing. I is equal to I plus 2. Okay. I plus 2. Now, see, 0 is printing first. Okay. 0 is printing first. Again, 0 is entered here. 0 plus 2. What is the value? 2. Now 2 is less than 10. Condition true. Now again 2 is printing. Okay, next value. Right now, what is the value of I? 2. Now 2, 2 plus 2, 4. Now 4 less than or equal to 10. Condition true. Now the 4 is printing. Means what? The only even numbers are printing. For suppose. Now I is equal to I plus 2. Control is right click, run as Java application. Now simply here, we are going to like one. But I want odd numbers. I want odd numbers. How I can print? If I write like I plus 1, what is the output? We'll see that. Now right click, run as Java application. Hmm. Observe. What is the initialization? 0 is what? Even or odd? Even. But we don't need like even, right? Odd we need. Man, that case, I want to start like 1. Okay. Now, simply here, I plus 2. Right? Now, control is right click, run as Java application. Now, save. Okay. But suppose I want to print like a 100 or simply here like 500 I want to print. Hmm. Now, in this case, what is that output? Within the 500, the odd values we are going to get. Only the odd values. Okay. Now, these odd values I want to print reverse order. Yeah. Now, in the sense like last value is what? 499. 419 is the first I want to get. The last value I want to get like that. 1. Ah. Initialization 500 or 499? 499. Ah. I minus 2. Now here, ah, hmm, I greater than or equal to 1. Okay. Right click, run as Java application. See. Okay. Now the reverse order. Now we are going to put. Okay. Now, if the reverse order even numbers I want, simply make it as 500. Now here, make it as 0. Make it as I plus 2. Right click, run as Java application. Okay, but we are getting like a here. We're getting like a the increment like an infinite loop. Okay, the condition is here. So keep on incrementing that here. You observe 5, 500, 5 plus 2, 500, 502, 504, 506. Around the even numbers are going to be incrementing. Okay. Okay. Now it's an infinite loop. Simply we wrote like the condition is wrong. How we can write? Did you observe? Only even numbers are printing here. 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 0 again. Yes, it's an infinite loop. So keep on iterating on it. Okay. Now by using while loop also now we can write it the same. But whenever like we are printing objects, whenever printing like we are printing files information, simply we'll go for like while loop. Okay. Now for loop also we can print the same value. While loop also will print the same value. But the requirement is a different. Okay. Requirement is a different. Now. No, simply we need to change the condition simply. Now I is equal starting is what? 500. Now simply here, or suppose I is equal to I minus 2, simply we can write control is right click, run as Java application. That's it. Okay. Now instead of plus, we need to add minus. Plus in this is like 500, 5 not 2, 5 not 4, 5 not 5. Okay. If it's a 500 minus is it 4, 498, 496 like that. Okay. Now, the same thing here, we can convert like while also. Observe carefully here. The same requirement I want to print like with while. Now, SYSO like a while loop. Okay, not 500, just like a 10 is enough. Okay, 10 is enough. Now, with while loop also, I want to print the same thing. Now, how we can write that while in the sense? Now, int I is equal to 0 initialization. Now, while of I less than or equal to 10 condition checking. Now the logic SYSO simply here of I, then incrementing. Okay, see here initialization, condition checking, incrementing first. Now initialization first 1. Okay, condition checking 2, printing 3, incrementing 4, again condition checking 5, printing 6, incrementing 7. Okay, for loop also I'm going to write like this here. Observe carefully here. Now this thing I'm going to write out of simply here. Now this thing I'm going to write after this statement. It's the same as like that while loop only. Okay, the same output. Now see, while also I'm going to write. Now while of simply here, here I'm going to write like that. Int x is equal to like 0. Now x is less than or equal to 10. Now SYSO. Now x I want to print. Now simply here while loop even nuts. Okay. Now x plus plus. Now we need to write what? Reverse order in the sense what? Reverse order. Now initially 10, it should be greater than or equal to 0. Now simply here x is equal to x minus 2. Okay. Now right click, run as Java application. Now see, both are getting the same. By using while loop, by using for loop also we can do that. But while in the sense whenever that objects, okay, within the object we have like large value, okay, large space. Within the large space we can store any amount of data. If we want to extract that, simply I don't know like how many values in the object. In that case, simply we'll go for that while. Okay, that's the point. And now we have the do while also. Now we'll discuss later than on Tuesday. Okay, we don't have like any session on Monday. Okay, we'll meet on Tuesday. So meanwhile, I will share some notes on that like flow controls. Okay, the do while is the only pen. Okay, nothing is there, that one also. Okay, on the day like Tuesday, we can practice some examples on this flow controls. Okay.